So this is the usual for horror music you'll hear everywhere. And the old boys sitting having a beer or whatever they're doing. But I like the walk. This is a natural sort of swimming pool on the river, they call it. It's 1,500 1,500 pesos, which is about 40 cents or something for the locals to swim in. But this road, I wanted to do this video earlier when it was sunny, but I was walking to the road and I thought it would be over. But anyway, the reason is last night's ceremony, which has many interesting facets. Ayahuasca. I didn't plan on doing any more ayahuasca. It just happened. Carlos spoke to me as he does every morning. How are you doing, Steve? You know, and we got chatting, and I said about the microdosing mushrooms, and which has been every night bar one for the last week, up to 1 gram every night, and it's been amazing. It really has. The transfer. During the day, I feel absolutely wonderful. I have to say, just so relaxed, so calm. Everything is just seems like the impression that everything's going to be fine. There's nothing to worry about. A sense of confidence and relaxation that I've never felt before. So, you know, just after a week of microdosing, I feel, and one night off in that. So anyway, what happened, Carlos kind of changed his view, because his view on mushrooms and ayahuasca, too soon together, not 3 days apart, changed yesterday, because he just wanted to invite me to the ceremony because it's extra money. He had a German guy who'd said that he wanted to do some ayahuasca yesterday. So yesterday lunchtime, while I was having my coffee, we were chatting, and I said, look, you know, the only thing that's been a problem is I've had a massive flare-up on my arms, which in the last sort of 4 or 5 days, the eczema has just been terrible. It's just really, really bad rash, and I don't know what's causing it. And he said, "Oh, do an ayahuasca ceremony tonight. I'll give you a cleansing." I said, "I can't." I said, because, Mick thinks that you should leave 2 or 3 days. And he said, "Yeah, well, it was me who told her that." "No, you'd be fine." I said, "Well, I did it before, without thinking. I did the mushrooms a day after ayahuasca on my first time on 0.5 gram. And they too seem to work really well. It was a very pleasant experience, actually." I've stopped because this truck's coming on. As you can see, this road it's not good for taxis. You need a 4-wheeler like this thing. And I enjoy the walk anyway. So, carrying the usual fruit and shit. So last night was very interesting. It was a German guy came. He was about 29, really nice fella. He's just been doing his master's in engineering. First time doing ayahuasca, and he had a great time. In contrast to this Norwegian guy who I met last week, which I'm going to talk about on this. It's going to be a long video because there's some really interesting aspects to this particular story, which I wanted to catalog about different people, their mindset, and what state their ego's in, etc. So, starting with the German guy, great guy. He's done truffles only before, which he said aren't as strong as magic mushrooms, but I was reading about this the other night. You can buy them and get them posted as well from Amsterdam, because they are psilocybin, probably not as strong. He doesn't think they're anywhere near as strong as mushrooms, but they are psychedelic, and they're legal. It's one of these weird loopholes being a truffle and not a mushroom, whatever the fuck, however they work that fucking nonsense out. But anyway, that's the way it is. So he'd done that. So, and he'd obviously done his research. You know, the guy certainly wasn't an idiot doing a master's. Lovely guy. So when he arrived at 7:30 last night, because I was thinking, fuck, if this guy doesn't arrive soon, you know, he might not come at all. Fuck it, I'll just, you know, do a microdose of a gram again, because I had a lovely time the night before. I took a big, just one mushroom head that weighed exactly a gram, and had a really nice experience. Just again, really relaxing, sense of just calm, and it's been like that the last few days as the mushrooms have really, I think, started to just work in the way that the research is claiming it. Yes, there were a few kind of trip periods where it was a bit odd, the odd night, feeling a bit tired or a bit mongy, and I stopped smoking. Even having just the odd spliff. I don't like pot. I love the clarity of thought that goes with mushrooms. And then pot, it's okay, like toward the end, if you want to just come down a bit and just slow down. But again, I've never really liked just pot. It doesn't have a particularly nice effect on me. I know it doesn't some people, but I don't like it. It makes me feel foggy. It fucks my memory up. Whereas on mushrooms, I'm a lot sharper. You know, the ability to converse or talk is, you know, the access to your mental database of words is there much more so on mushrooms. I have pot, and then it kind of everything goes like, oh, what the fuck am I talking about? Which a lot of people would argue that's what your videos sound like, Steve. But anyway, so I'll finish off the story that happened last week, because there are a few interesting psychological components to it. This was my first ayahuasca ceremony here. It's Sierra Ancestral. So that was my 30th ceremony overall. A couple arrived. One guy was from Norway and his girlfriend was Australian. They've been traveling for 2 years. And I think he said they'd been doing mushrooms. But when we got talking, he said, you know, he's a really nice guy. We got chatting about trauma, because obviously I always ask, you know, if they don't mind, what the reasons for them for wanting to try ayahuasca, especially when it's first timers, you know, what led them to it, etc. And he was talking about past trauma and stuff, and so I let him spoke about mine. And then, oddly though, he kind of had an attitude, oh, you should try this, that, and the other. And he said, I've got this method of getting right to the core of my trauma, which I thought, well, that sounds interesting, you know, by give the guy a benefit of a doubt. But anyway, his girlfriend was very quiet. She didn't say much. She seemed very nice. And then when I came down for the ceremony, I was last to come in, so I hadn't found a space. All the other people arrived, 10 people. They all chose their hammock and where they wanted to be. And sometimes that's important with a group of strangers, where you feel where you want to be. You know, like I like to be just clear access if I want to get up and just walk straight to the toilet or whatever. But anyway, the only place was by this guy's hammock where he was lying. He'd already put his mat down on the floor, and when I lay down sort of by him, I didn't really feel where I wanted to be, but it was the best there was. And then he said, oh, you're in my healing space. And I said, oh, yeah. I said, oh, yeah, okay. I said, is that a problem for you? I said, because I can move, you know, it's no big deal. And oh, no, I just wanted you to know you're in my healing space. I said, to be honest, I'm not comfortable here anyway, so I'll move to the other side of you. So it's by the actual sort of exit. It's all an exit because it's an open maloca. It's not screened, which is a mosquito problem in itself, which I found out last night. So that was just strange. And of course, this wasn't a big deal at the time, but in retrospect, what happened was that was the ceremony where I didn't feel like anything was happening, which has happened before, but not very often. So of course I got up and left there. I didn't do a second cup. My back wasn't so good. And nothing was happening. I wasn't getting anything from the ayahuasca, except feeling a bit sick. So I just went and threw up. And, that was basically the end of that. I just wasn't in that space. And I don't think there was a message to be had at the time. And I thought that kind of convinced me that my ayahuasca journey was over. Although it turned out it wasn't. Although I still think it is overall. But last night, because Carlos invited me, I said, well, if the other guy doesn't mind, yeah, why not? I said, but about the mushrooms, and he said, I think you'll be all right. But of course, that's just a shaman changing his mind because there's an extra $45 in it for him. In some respects, that's what I kind of thought. But no, he said, but I'll give you a cleansing. And it was really interesting. But to finish off the story first with the Norwegian guy, because I do this, don't I? I jump around with too many subjects. The next day, because I went to bed early and didn't finish the ceremony as such, I said to Labo, he said, oh, how you doing? I said, my back's not so good. I said, look, I just don't want to be here. I don't feel like it at all. He said, oh, well, if you're feeling uncomfortable, I'll ask Carlos. And he said, yeah, go to your room. And I was glad I did. So, of course, I didn't have to sit around with him. Because I don't see the point. I just don't see the point of an all-night ceremony, There's no closure. It's not like they go through a proper ritual where they close it properly, as far as I know, because I walked out of last night's at 5 a.m. because they were asleep. And I was uncomfortable, so I just thought, fuck this. I was getting bitten by mosquitoes. And I saw Carlos this morning, as usual. Oh, how are you, Steve? And I said, oh, sorry, I walked out. I left, but you were asleep. I didn't want to wake you up. Because I fucking can't see the point in these all-night ceremonies where it's actually over. The ayahuasca's finished. What the fuck is you just staying in the Maloka for when you've got a fucking bedroom? So I just left. Once it's run its course, I think it should just be done. I really don't understand that particular cultural aspect, like in Ecuador as well with Mira and Yana, where it's staying in the Maloka till it's light. It's finished. You don't have to formally close it. You should, when the ayahuasca's worn off after the second cup, finish the fucking ceremony and let everyone either go to sleep if they're staying in the Maloka anyway, or fuck off to bed, especially if you've got a decent, comfortable bed with no mosquitoes. So I don't get that, and it does fuck me off, because again, it's this thing about, oh, well, culturally that's the way it's done. It's like, well, other cultures it's not. And just from a practical point of view, I've got enough experience to know that it's fucking not necessary, and it doesn't work for me. When it's over, go to fucking bed, or get comfortable, be where you want to be in your space, But anyway, going back to this Norwegian guy, the next day I saw Mickey Mushroom, and I said, oh, how was everybody? Because I got up late, but they'd already gone because they didn't have rooms, so they were gone in the morning. And I said, oh, how was everybody? I said, yeah. I said, oh, the Mexican girls, they really enjoyed it. They had quite a deep experience, blah, blah, blah. I said, what about the Norwegian guy? She said, oh, that was interesting, because she said she asked him how his ceremony was, and he just went, I'm never fucking doing that ever again. So I laughed, and I said, that's interesting, because I thought he was a bit of a kind of okay guy at first, but I kind of got the impression, especially after, and I told her what happened with me and the whole you're in my space sort of thing. And I said, to be honest, I got the feeling, because there was something else. His girlfriend got up to go to the toilet while I was talking to him, and she'd chosen a spot two hammocks away from him. They weren't together. And when she went up to go to the toilet, because I'd seen him in the toilet already, and he was saying about the floor being dirty, and I said, I put thick socks on. I didn't give a fuck. Anyway, there's piss on the floor. You fucking wash your socks the next day. Who gives a fuck? It's just tiled floor, and it's when you're staggering around on ayahuasca, whatever the fuck. It's just the way it is. But when she got up, he said, oh, where are you going? And she said, oh, I'm going to the toilet. He said, make sure you put shoes on. And it was just a little kind of feeling that there was an aspect of control about him. And I think, because I joked with Mick and said, well, you know what ayahuasca can be like? Probably he showed him the mirror, and he didn't like what he saw, because that's what ayahuasca does. It's about ego destruction and showing yourself for what you really are. So that was and he vomited. Carlos was talking about it yesterday. He said, oh no, that guy, he said he puked, because we could hear someone puke, we didn't know who it was. And man, he was retching like fuck. And so, you know, that's obviously what put the shits up him, and that's why basically, you know, not saying I'm never doing that again. Of course, I didn't get to talk to him the next morning to say, look, man, that's your lesson. You know, the point is you should continue doing it because you've obviously got a lot to learn. And that whole attitude about, oh, I've got this insight and I found a method into how to get to the root cause of my trauma, is like, obviously not. And ayahuasca gave you a fucking hard time exactly because of that, because ayahuasca will tell you what the root causes of your problems are, especially if it's, you know, you think you've got it sussed. No, you have to. So it doesn't work like that, I'm afraid, amigo, you know. So that was an interesting story. And then last night's, sorry, the hissing is this. It's broken. They popped the mains pipes here on in the bamboo, or the main water pipe. It's a lovely piece of ground here. Oh, it's so fucking busy this time. I don't know where everyone's going. I'm sure I'm out for a meal or something. So last night's ayahuasca ceremony for me was, if you're gonna drive, man, just fucking drive and get on with it. For fuck's sake, they fuck around for something shocking on it's not that fucking rough road. Yeah, I had a really kind of deep visuals, sort of conversations with Mama, but it didn't seem like it was as such. But before I made an intention to get to the bottom of this eczema, because I've asked to heal this as part of an intention so many times, and it's not working. So last night I just thought a different approach. I thought I'll ask, my intention was going to be, can we find out what the emotional root cause of this is? And it was quite interesting because I'm going to go on this rock, because that noise there is Sierra Ancestral with the family, the big family that's here today, and they haven't fucked off yet, and it's 5 o'clock, so they're still fucking blaring their shit music. I fucking hate it. They're for horse shit, and they got screaming kids. I mean, literally, they just scream. There's something about kids here, especially the boys. They just scream when they're in a pool or something. They're just fucking weird, but it's annoying as fuck. But anyway, let me find a snake to sit on. Probably. So it was quite sad last night for a little bit. I went to the toilet at one point, a couple of hours after the second glass. Nothing much had happened, and I went to the toilet. I knew the German guy had gone into the women's toilets, and he was sat on the bog. And I felt like I was starting to trip pretty strongly. And I shouted through. I just asked through the door. I said, "Are you okay?" And he called back. I said, "Yeah." And I went into the next door, into the male toilets where there's only one toilet, and stuck my fingers down my throat to vomit. Got quite a lot of ayahuasca up because it's a full sort of egg cup size. Tasted exactly the same as last week, but completely different effect. And this is the thing with ayahuasca, you just don't know. Although Carlos said he does have different mixes as well, which the second cup later on was a different mix. It was harsher, because he said, "Oh, I've got different mixes." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "That second one's different." I said, "The first one was a lot sweeter," which, as I've said before, ayahuasca that's sweeter usually means there's more chacruna in it, which will be more visual, which was certainly the case last night. It's because there's more DMT in it. You get the more of a transcendental link or experience if you're going to have one, whereas the second one just tasted a bit more bitter and was just more like a cleaning mix. So that didn't do anything to me afterwards. I didn't go any further up or whatever. I just sort of it kind of calmed, it stopped a bit of discomfort in my stomach, and then I felt fine. But then I did have a cleansing, an actual ritual cleansing again, which was really interesting, because Carlos had said to me that morning, I said, "I'll do a cleansing for you." And we were talking about my skin. He said, "Oh, maybe you should try Ortega, and I've remembered the name of that plant. Whether it's a local name or a Spanish name, I don't know. But it's growing right next to the Maloca, and it's got little spikes all over it. He said we beat you with it, so we hit your body with it, and it causes a rash, but it's healing. I thought, at this point with the eczema, I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. I've got nothing to lose. So he said, I will try it in the cleansing as well. I'll do a cleansing for you, and it was fuck me, man. When he pulled the whole plant and got me to sit on this little stool in front of him. The German guy didn't do this, so it was just me. And his ritual cleansing, because he's Putumayo tradition of South Colombia, it was much more like some of the incantations over the ayahuasca and like putting your hand on your head and stuff like that is much more really rapid Catholic kind of priest indigenous mix Spanish, which is we came across that. The closest I've come to that before was me and Bianca in South Peru when we went to Amantini Island, and we had a little cleansing done by a shaman, which in that region is coca leaves based, because they don't grow, obviously it's in the mountains, so they don't grow, there's no forest there to grow ayahuasca. So their shamanic tradition down there, and their language is Quechua. So there's a lot of mutterings with that. So that was a kind of similar delivery, if you like. Hand on their head, crossing the heart a little bit. A powder puff thing that he wiped down my body with. But then he got the Ortega thing in his hand. And I was just sitting there with closed hands, like palms open up. He said, like they always say, don't close your hands together because it closes your energy off. So you just rest your hands on your knees, and then he put his hands on my head. But then he brought the plant, and it felt like he was pushing the spikes into my skull, really sharp. It was like, what the fuck, what's that? What's he doing? And I just had this image of Jesus Christ having the crown of thorns stuck in his head. Like fucking painful. Like, shit, what's going on here? This is different. It's like, ow, that fucking hurt. And then he started the flagellation with this fucking plant. It's got these little spikes all over the leaves, but some of them are pretty fucking big. And when he's like, whatever the fuck he's muttering, and he's whipping the top of my neck and then my shoulders, and these little spikes are going in. It's like, fuck me, they're painful. Really quite hard, but the little spikes. But when he got down to my lower back, which is what we'd spoken about in the morning, fuck me, I took all of my fucking willpower of pain handling to not actually fucking shout out, because at one point, because it really highlighted, especially already being on ayahuasca, where my back is usually kind of opened up, presumably for healing, or the nerves get sensitive to be healed. The nerves are really sensitive, and that area really brought home the damage of that area, because obviously the spine's been damaged, the nerves are always probably, right on the edge of being triggered. And when he hit me with this thing down there, fuck me, man, that hurt like fuck. And I was just like, fucking shit. Like, fuck. I was just kind of holding, thinking, fuck, man, I won't be able to take much more of that. Hitting quite hard, and some of the spikes just seemed huge going into that particular nerve, that base of my spine. Really fucking painful. But then luckily it wasn't for long, and he moved back up my higher back, and it went back to not being so bad. And then he went straight into another Icaro with his hand on my head, and then another one after that, which was fine. But what was nice after, there's a lovely dog here. She's a puppy, and she's a husky, and she's beautiful. And she came over the other ceremony last week, and started biting me to play. She got really sharp teeth, being a pup. But she was there, so she was lying. When I went to go back to my mat, she was lying on it, so I was stroking her, just really relaxing. Being with the dog made me think of our old Alsatian and stuff. And so I just lay down with the dog, stroking the dog, and then my back. After about 5 minutes, I just had this feeling. I suppose maybe it works because of the endorphin release with ayahuasca. who knows? But it had a really kind of just a pain relieving effect after the initial pain of being flagellated by this spiky fucking leaf plant. And then there was just this feeling, a bit like taking a codeine tablet. You know, there's like that kind of all over. Oh, it's just no pain anywhere in my back. I just feel normal. And I mean, it didn't last long because I had to lie down back on the mat, which, you know, when it was getting a bit cooler, not cold. I was covered in the blanket, but not because of heat this time, because it's still very warm this time of year here. It's 30 degrees during the day and still 27 at night, down, you know, 26, 27. So it's not cold by any means. But we have the blankets in the Maloka because the fucking mosquitoes are a problem. They're not really bad, but they are, you know, when you're hypersensitive on ayahuasca, you don't want them because it's in your ear and they always go for my ears. So they were a pain in the ass, and that's why I end up thinking I've got to stick this out because in case there is a closing ceremony, and do it properly this time. But I said, just the practicality of it. By 5, I stuck it out till 5 in the morning. I thought, fuck this, they've gone to sleep now anyway. The shaman and his kind of apprentice. Carlos and his apprentice. His apprentice vomits a lot. Although Carlos did say to me that they actually have a different ayahuasca drink, so maybe it's much stronger, and maybe he's training or whatever the fuck. But he vomited twice last night, and he's really fucking loud and it's like not far from the Maloka either. It's like didn't even make it to the toilet or further into the grass. So the overall experience was really interesting because the kind of image, because I'd asked of my intention, what's the root cause? Well, and as I've said before, images or visions, and it wasn't really a vision, but it was a lot of insightful sort of concrete thought process with a very, very strong imagery that's not visuals, not visions. And it came to me that it was, again, back to my mother, but not so much the treatment of me as far as, well, obviously a lot of treatment of me and all of us, but more or less what the effect she's had on my sisters and my brother, because he saw more of her up to the age of 15 and some of her behavior that he's told me about since as we've been older, when she was much younger, like stealing money and stuff. And that's why they've never got on, my brother and my mother, because of what she did when my father was still alive. And I think it was just really sad for me. It wasn't sort of crying level sad. But it was sad in ayahuasca, just to think of the amount of damage that's been caused by her and to her in the first place to make her what she was, that then affected my two sisters so badly with their maltreatment. Terry and I are probably getting let off relatively lightly because narcissists have different mechanisms for using people for their own ends, and obviously there's degrees to that too with each individual. So, but nevertheless, it was a very deep thing, and then next thing, an image of my video, just bang, like there's your YouTube video, Jordan Peterson, the 5-minute clip that I did 4 or 5 years ago that's had about 350,000 views on loyalty and trust loss, because that's the core of it. It's the most devastating, as he says in that video, is the most devastating thing that can happen psychologically to any individual, is when you lose trust or realize that somebody isn't what you think or what you thought they were, maybe all of your life, which is our case in our family, especially me, because I didn't find out what my mother was until I did the research and read all the books on narcissistic personality disorder and complex post-traumatic stress disorder 3 or 4 years ago, which luckily I found out before she died. But nevertheless, I mean, it's not a problem. I forgave her, and I've been through all of that too before I even started ayahuasca. So, but it's still, there's always, subconscious baggage, and that was what was really shown. So that aspect of loyalty and trust loss, as if trying to say that's a root cause of your blood systemic aspect. Although, as I said, ayahuasca doesn't necessarily show you the truth in terms of visions, because they can be really wild. how it seems to work is, as I've said before, to try and overwrite and heal consistently firing thought patterns that are trauma based in your subconscious that you have no control over. Ayahuasca, like other psychological techniques, can produce a mental image that helps your conscious brain lock onto something. So it doesn't actually matter if it's actually completely true or not. It's just an image that your conscious brain can relate to, so that you understand something that enables the different that subconscious pathway to be overwritten with something new, effectively. That's how it seems to work, as I've said before. But nevertheless, the experience of having these insights and these visions or these thought processes under the super magnifying glass microscope, really, of ayahuasca, is to make you feel those emotions while you're under the influence of the plant spirit, so that you can be healed. And so it was a really interesting ceremony. That was the main event. There was nothing really else. There were just thoughts, really, after that. Whilst trying to drop off to sleep, but so I'm going to go back now. Looks like the music's stopped. Hopefully they'll be wrapping up and fuck off soon, because I like to know the place is quiet and pretty empty, because I'll probably push it tonight just for the fuck of it, because look, it's about experimentation. There's always a risk that you might have some periods in a mushroom microdose. If it's a bit strong, you might get a bit of anxiety or whatever. But generally speaking, the more I've done them, getting my body used to 1 gram doses, during the day, I'm feeling just so incredible, just really so relaxed and just anxiety free, really just a clarity of thought and just a lovely sense of being. It is absolutely wonderful. Why these fucking things are illegal is a joke, and this is why it's great. So much research being done into it. Again, but they're plant medicines. They should be viewed as such. I still suggest to anybody, if you can, do them in even a controlled environment to start your first one. If you're going to do a big trip, even. I still haven't done one on these. I haven't had a big trip since I was a teenager, and of course that was chaos because you're just a teenager fucking around. But I will now do the next ceremony, because that will be 3 grams, and have a visual trip, just so that I know that I've done it. 5 grams of these, as I think I said the other night, and whether I put that video up, I don't know, but reading up about it, 5 grams of golden teachers, cubensis, whatever you call it. The species is regarded as a heroic dose, so that would be a big trip. So I'll do 3 grams with the next one. I think they said they're going to do one next week. I think they already have people who've contacted them. So just in summary, again, because it's going to be cultural, like everything in plant medicine, one shaman says one thing, another will say another. So nothing's written in stone for me. So therefore, once you've had enough experience, you make your own decisions, because it's about using, your own intuition and for your level of plant medicine experience that you've done and what you think is going to work for you. And if you fall foul, well, okay, you might have a bit of a bad time for a while, but nothing can be as bad as what ayahuasca can put you through, I hope. I mean, I'm sure mushrooms can too. But when I had ayahuasca again last night, there were points where I just thought, oh, fuck, man, why did I say yes to this? But it didn't last long. And for what the overall benefits were now, the day after, as it always is, because you've done it, there's always something to learn. But again, it really brings home the power of ayahuasca, and that's why you have to be prepared for ayahuasca. Because if you're coming from a really, a traumatic background, or you've got a lot of bad dark energy from the West, and everybody does. Although the German guy last night, he did have a great time. He really enjoyed it, and he was only there. He didn't have any trauma background or anything, but he'd only done his truffles, as I said, but he wanted to find out more about himself. And he did. He felt, we were talking before or just after the next glass, you know, waiting for it. He was stood up, so by the pool. So I went out, looked at the stars, and said, you know, how are you doing? I know you weren't too good in the toilet. He said, oh, I just had some diarrhea. So we were talking, and I said, oh, how was it generally? And he said, oh yeah, man, it was amazing. I said, what did you, any big insights? He said, oh, I just had the sense of consciousness, so that was good. And I said about my imagery with my mother, and wasn't going to burden him with it, but he's, I mentioned about my mother being, sort of mild narcissist, but still potentially, caused a lot of damage. And I just sort of left at that. But he said, "Oh, do you want to talk about it?" So I told him a bit more. And he was aware of what, as most people are now with the internet. Just people are becoming so much more aware of the effect of trauma in their lives, and fucking parents. At the end of the day, it's by far, in all of the experiences, especially talking to shamans. I was thinking about how many shamans I've known quite well, had good relationships, even if it's just for a few days. I won't count the first one, but I counted up. I've known quite well, had some good conversations with 8 shamans now in the last 10 months. And, any of them will tell you the vast majority of problems that people can come to ayahuasca ceremonies with, or San Pedro for that matter, or other plant medicines, is familial trauma. Parents are a fucking problem because they're messed up. And it's generational, as Gabor Mate has said all along for years, which, he's gained so much traction now, and especially in psychological literature. Not that I've read much, not any in the last couple of years since I read the books. But anyway, so some really interesting things in the last week, and the microdosing is going really well. So for Joe and Mike, sooner you can get on it, the better. If it works for you guys, and I know that you don't have anywhere near the trauma that I did because of just going on the ACE score alone. I've got an ACE score of 8. There, 2 or 3. Mike's 3, I think. Sandra 4, possibly. I think we did a few years ago when we did the form 4. But so far, I met a French guy today who gave me. Oh, I got it here. I got chatting to him. He had a local girlfriend. He's been here for 3 years, and he had a little bag, and he was selling rapé. And I was like, I've got shitloads of rapé. I said mine's pretty strong from the shamans in Ecuador. I don't really need any more. But he said, I should remember the name of it. So it was 20,000 for. Where is it? Well, fucking ginger in here. I've been munching on ginger to try and solve this sore throat. That's the other reason I did ayahuasca last night. Because this sore throat, this cough, very, very mild, but it's been a pain in the ass since I smoked the fucking pot, kind of set it off. But I wasn't the only one who's Mick has had it, and she thinks some guy was here last weekend who possibly had a COVID-y type throat. I think I put it in my pouch. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a little vial rather, of rapé, and he said it's got, what was it, Jumelia? I can't remember now what the fucking plant was in it. He said, but it's really nice. With he's done a bit of ayahuasca, and he's done mushrooms. He said the same to me. He said, ayahuasca mushrooms work very well. So that's my French accent, by the way. And so he spoke really good English. He was from Lille. He's got a baby boy, so and he's trying to set up a bakery. He took my WhatsApp number, so he didn't have the information for that particular rapé, but he works in consultation, and the guys know him here. He said he knows not Fabi, he knows Labo, because Labo, he said, they've tried to buy rapé from me before. They like my stuff. He said, but this particular rapé, he said it's really good. It's like for having vivid, lucid dreams. He said it's really nice. So anyway, I thought, fuck it, I'll try it, because my stuff, I'm taking really big doses of mine, and it's a bit of a spin out. But anyway, So a lot of information in this video. A lot of people who will have been bored shitless after 3 minutes, no doubt, because this is going to be. I'm going to have to cut this down. It's a long one. So I'll report back at some point on the rapé, but I'm going to discuss it. Maybe see what Carlos, if he wants to try it, and Labo. But Labo, he said Labo definitely wanted to buy some of his stuff. So I'll talk to Labo in a minute. He's the really nice Brazilian guy who does the the yoga warm-ups and does the translation if we've got a mixed group. And Carlos is speaking Spanish for other Spanish-speaking members. Carlos does translations for the English. Not Carlos, sorry, Labo does the translations, and he's really into his yoga. So, but he, like me, he said, like you said the other day, I think my ayahuasca path is now coming to an end, because he's only been doing mushrooms for 4 weeks, and so they're still in the early stages of working out how they want to basically manage the mushroom ceremonies, because they're kind of learning as they go, and it's nice doing the yoga warm-ups. I think they've done a reasonable job. Although I said to him yesterday, I said, the thing is, with mushrooms, it can affect people so differently. Like, if you get the giggles or you want to be talkative, because it's much more uppy, and because you're not feeling sick, you've got a bit more energy, and your mind can be really clear, although it can be foggy sometimes, like if it hits you hard. But sometimes you want to listen to your own music. And he said they did that with the Norwegian girl who was here on her own the other night. She had a nice ceremony. He said, but they were dancing. They tried. I said, well, maybe another aspect is to, as part of the introduction, actually talk to individuals and say, look, what we'll do is at various points, we'll have like a part structure to it. And then if people want to talk to each other or talk to him or Fabio, who plays the didgeridoo awesomely, or try putting the music on, or make suggestions if it's okay with everyone else. Have a little session, but so that they know that that's possible, and then people can sort of decide democratically and just say, look, oh no, I need just quiet, or whatever phase they're in, as part of that mushroom ceremony. Because obviously, you've got to cater for, it's set and setting. You've got to cater for everybody as best as you can to make them stay feeling comfortable. Because I can be a bit like that on mushrooms. You get a funny thought in your head, or you get uppy on it. You want to chat and have a laugh or something. You don't want to just lie there, because if you want to do that, do ayahuasca. You don't have much choice on ayahuasca, because you generally feel it's got that nausea and sickness component that just lays you out. You haven't got bundles of energy on ayahuasca. It's not how it works. But mushrooms is a different ball game. But you can, you go just as deep in a big trip on mushrooms apparently. And I feel confident in that now that I've got my body used to it. I've had my weird times and sort of like the paranoia from, whoa, my God, what's this going to be like in terms of having a sort of a paranoia trip, because you're thinking about your previous experiences as a teenager when you went through all that. But I'm not saying you can't still have that. It's like with any plant medicine, like I said the other night. If it's necessary, it can dump you back there, because there may be something to learn. The trick is to have faith that, and I had a spell like that last night. I had a really intense spell where I was, fucking hell, this is not pleasant, and it's fucking getting overpowering. Why the fuck did I do this? Although it's nowhere near as overpowering as like a year ago when I was in the early stages. Like that some of that was seriously fucking scary shit. I mean, fucking scary shit. Like, you think you're just fucking brain's gone, but you're not. You know what I mean? It's like that loss of mind thing, but like overwhelming, and there's a spiritual component to it, and you could be lost in these realms, but you always have to come back, because they're lessons, because you always, on ayahuasca, Mama Ayahuasca is always there. You just have to know and just believe, and just that she's never going to harm you, but will push you to limits that, as I've said before, even you don't think that you could endure, but you do. So anyway, a lot of interesting information was garnered last night, and just interesting experiences. So I'll have to cut this down now because it's a fucking long vid, and no doubt, well, but there's been a few things there from pretty much the last week. And it's so long, I might as well just finish off with what I've done so far. It's 4 days of 1 gram. On the occasional nights for experimentation, I've done half a gram, and then 2 hours later, I think that was my third night, or was it? Yeah, the third night after the ceremony. And then the next night I did another gram, then I had a day off. So just my brain was just saying, no, don't do any more. Then I had a break, and then I had another gram. So the last 3 now have been just grams, and starting a bit earlier so that I'm not up too late, because obviously I tend to stay in bed till lunchtime, and I'm only getting up. Oh, and the other thing that I'm doing for reference is about this eczema shit. I've started just drinking black coffee because Yana, the shamana in Ecuador, said to me, yeah, there could be liver or kidney problem, minor, but that's where the lack of heat came from in ayahuasca ceremonies. And I said to her, I was reading up about liver cleanse that you can do with coffee. It's one of the components or plants that you can use for a liver cleanse. And she stressed, yeah, but no milk or sugar. It's got to be just black coffee. And it's pretty horrible. But again, you just treat it like plant medicine. So the last 2 mornings, I've been having only black coffee to see if that makes any difference. It hasn't. I bought some different soap today. This is like a wheat-based one, which is like 15,000, and a block of something quite nice. It smells nice. But anyway, wherever it is. Smells quite nice. This is a natural, and if it's the right way up, whatever. I think that cost me 12,000, which is about $3. And try different soaps, because I don't know if it's the soap in the hotel that set me off, or a combination of things. I just don't know. But it's been a pain in the ass for 4 or 5 days now. It's been quite bad, kind of hot and itchy at times, and very dry skin. So fuck knows what set it off in the first place, but it hasn't gone. So that's a disappointment after 10 months of plant medicine. But again, that's why I asked about the root causes last night, which ayahuasca gave me an answer that goes back to, core levels of trust, and trusting someone that couldn't be trusted. But you're not to know because you're brainwashed by a narcissistic parent that's what they do. And this is why they're so fucking dangerous, because they're not I don't even think a lot of the time that they're deliberately malicious. They're just so fucking come from a whole environment of fear, which is what creates them themselves, that it just becomes a pattern of behavior that they don't even know they're doing. A lot of the time, of course, they also do know what they're doing, and they orchestrate it, and that's why they're so fucking malicious, and they can be so covert as well as overt. It's a complicated, horrible facet of human psychology that's possible. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But unfortunately, it's endemic, probably worst it's ever been since social media and fucking Facebook and WhatsApp and likes and fucking dopamine hits and selfies and all of that shit. All that fake bullshit of the West that was deliberate to engineer that. So anyway, I'm going to go and wait until these guys, they turn the music down, but I want to make sure I see them fucking leave before I take a gram of mushrooms. So probably go and have a ginger tea and see how we go tonight. Get this video edited and or shrunk and then uploaded.